A wild ape treated his own wound with a medicinal plant. The internet says it's true. Welcome to The Internet Says It's True, where every week we learn something that sounds like I just made it up, but it's really true. Part of the WCBE podcast experience. My name is Michael Kent. This is episode 243. Thank you so much for tuning in. Later on in this episode, we've got Jay Black joining us, so stay tuned for that. I am currently recording from Chicago. I'm in Chicago for 8 shows this weekend. Really enjoying that. The beautiful weather here makes it so much nicer, and Chicago is great to begin with. 7 shows at the Chicago Magic Lounge. We did one last night, and it was fantastic. That place is just such a gem. One of my favorite rooms in the whole world to work. And then Saturday afternoon, I'm performing at the FAFO Festival. FAO Fest is at the Raven Theater in Chicago. Anywho, let's get into this episode, but before we do that, I do want to remind you, if you want to support this podcast, you can join the Patreon. Just visit patreon.com/Michael Kent. That's where you can pay to join at any level, from $1 all the way on up, and then you get bonuses, like videos, you get early ad-free episodes, discounts on merch, and more. Patreon.com/Michael Kent is where you go to do that. Let's get into this week's episode. I want to begin with a side road. I want to talk about chimps, not Rakus the orangutan just yet. And if I accidentally put a G on the end of orangutan, that is just my Urbana, Ohio coming out, and I apologize in advance. I don't know, growing up we said orangutan. I guess maybe a lot of people did. So I'm going to try to stick with orangutan and see how we do. But before we do that, let's go to Tanzania in the 1980s. Researchers studying chimpanzees in the Gombe National Park began noticing something strange when chimps showing signs of intestinal distress, lethargy, bloating, refusal to eat. They'd sometimes go looking for a specific type of plant, and the plant was Aspelea, a coarse-leafed shrub that wasn't part of the normal diet. And they didn't chew it for flavor or nutrients. They swallowed the leaves whole, rough edges and all, and then passed to them. And the reason was because those rough leaves scraped the lining of their intestines and dislodged parasites. It was a form of self-medication. That same behavior was later observed in bonobos, gorillas, and even some bird species. It was part of a growing field of science called zoopharmacognosy, which literally means animal drug knowledge, and it challenged what we thought we knew about animals. See, we've long assumed that humans are the only species capable of understanding and using medicine, but the more we watch animals, the more we see signs that the line between us and them is a little blurrier than we thought. And let me give you a few more examples. Sloth bears in India have been seen rubbing their faces in medicinal trees after being stung by bees. Woolly spider monkeys in Brazil consume plants with sedative properties during mating season, and that's potentially to reduce aggression. Birds, starlings specifically, will line their nests with aromatic herbs that repel mites. Porcupines chew on bark high in tannins when they have intestinal issues. Some parrots and lemurs eat clay to detox after consuming mildly toxic seeds. There are even capuchin monkeys who crush millipedes and rub them all over their fur. It's basically insect repellent. These aren't random behaviors, they're targeted responses to specific physiological issues. The animals get sick, they seek out something specific, and they use it in a way that helps them heal. But in almost every case, it's ingestion. The animal eats something that affects their insides. That's why what happened in 2022 in the Sumatran rainforest is so remarkable. That's where we meet Rakus. Rakus is a male Sumatran orangutan living in the Swak-Balimbing Research Area, part of the Gunung Laujer National Park in Indonesia. The park is a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve and home to one of the last remaining wild populations of Sumatran orangutans, an endangered species with fewer than 14,000 individuals left in the wild. On June 25, 2022, researchers from the SWAK Project, which is a long-term field study run by the Max Planck Institute of Animal Behavior and Universitas Nasional in Jakarta, were observing Rakus when they noticed he had a fresh facial wound. It looked like it came from a fight with another male, a horizontal gash across his right cheek, several centimeters long just below his eye. Now, injuries in wild animals aren't uncommon. Most of the time, the animals lick the wound or leave it alone entirely. But Rakus did something no wild animal has ever been seen doing. He began searching the area for a specific plant. He located a vine known as Fibraria tinctoria. In Indonesian, it's called akar kuning, which means yellow root. This plant isn't common in the orangutan's normal diet. It's a type of climbing shrub that contains berberine, an alkaloid compound with anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and analgesic properties. In traditional human medicine across Southeast Asia, it's used to treat wounds, ulcers, and skin infections. Rakus plucked the leaves and began chewing them, not to swallow, but to create a paste. Then he took the plant pulp and applied it directly to his facial wound. And not just once. Researchers observed him applying the paste multiple times over a period of 7 minutes, chewing, dabbing the wound with his fingers, even smearing it across the entire injury. After that, he packed the wound with chewed leaf matter, essentially creating a natural poultice like an herbal bandage. And then he rested. He built a nest and laid down for several hours. The researchers had seen nothing like this. Over the next several days, they watched the healing process. The wound stayed clean. It closed within 5 days, and within a month, it had completely healed, leaving only a faint scar. There were no signs of infection or necrosis. Rakus continued moving normally and showed no signs of pain or discomfort. This was groundbreaking, because while there have been previous cases of animals consuming plants with medicinal properties, there has never been a confirmed case of a wild animal creating a topical treatment and applying it externally to a wound. It's the first time this behavior has been documented in the wild, not in a zoo, not with human training. This was an orangutan who had never been in captivity, had never seen a doctor, and had somehow figured out how to self-treat a complex wound with a specific healing plant. And what makes it even more interesting is that this wasn't a plant that Rakus regularly ate. It's not a food source. This was something he seemed to seek out for a purpose. But how did he know? That's the big question. Was this instinct? Was it trial and error? Did he observe another orangutan doing something similar? Is this behavior passed on socially in certain groups of apes, or was this a one-time innovation? We'll dig deeper into what this might mean for science and for us humans after a quick break.
Hey, I'm Cliff Bumgardner.
And I'm Harrison Stewart.
If you're like us, you probably grew up watching the Discovery Channel classic, Mythbusters.
From rocket cars to chicken cannons, Mythbusters proved there's no question too big, too small, or too ridiculous to put to the test.
Now we're going back to rewatch the show from episode 1, and we want you to follow along. Join us as we revisit every single myth, moment, experiment, and explosion from throughout the show's legendary 14 seasons. Subscribe now so you don't miss one.
There was a time that humans used 100% organic products as healing balms and moisturizers for their skin. Well, I've partnered with an awesome company that wants to get back to those times. Fatco sells organic and responsibly made tallow-based skincare products. For centuries, humans used tallow in skin moisturizers and healing balms, but unfortunately, the topical application of these fats seemed to stop around the same time that animal fats stopped being considered part of a healthy diet. A lot of modern skincare products do more harm than good by stripping your skin of its natural oils. Let's change that. You can try them out now at fatco.com and get 15% off your order by using my promo code INTERNET. Go to theinternetsaysitstrue.com/deals for the link.
I'm John DeSando, host of Back Talk. This podcast is an extension of the long-running, award-winning movie review show, It's Movie Time. Back Talk features additional content and banter with guests about new movies. If you want more insight and information about what's playing now in theaters and online, find Back Talk at the WCBE Podcast Experience on WCBE.org. You'll be happy you did.
We're living through the most dynamic time in human history, and what we do as leaders matter. We are the ones that create the leverage to shift directions of our companies, our nonprofits, and our communities. As a leader or an emerging leader, please join me for a dynamic conversation with top thought leaders, academics, and executives to learn more about how to elevate your leadership. I'm Maureen Metcalf. Join us at the WCBE Podcast Experience at WCBE.org.
If you love listening to this podcast every week and you want to show your support, that would mean a great deal to me. You can do that by becoming a Patreon member. We've got members at all levels, whether you want to pledge $1 a month or $10 a month. Just think about the value that you receive from this show. And if you like the histories and the stories that you learn about or the jokes that you hear, and if you think that they're worth it, consider signing up. For that, you get every episode ad-free and a week early, access to bonuses like the unedited videos of the guest appearances, and 20% off all merchandise. You can sign up today at patreon.com/Michael Kent. That's patreon.com/Michael Kent. So here's where things get even more fascinating. Let's talk about orangutan intelligence. Orangutans are among the most intelligent non-human primates. They've been observed using tools, sticks to extract insects, leaves as umbrellas, even fashioning gloves from foliage. They learn by imitation, they pass knowledge across generations, and they've been seen planting roots and using memory to return to fruiting trees months later. But this is something else. This is medical behavior, something we've traditionally believed only humans could do. He didn't just eat a healing plant. He processed it into a salve, targeted a specific area on his body, and applied it with care, even resting afterward. And that suggests three things. Self-awareness, Rakus recognized that he was injured and that the injury needed to be addressed. Knowledge of the environment, because he knew where to find a plant with the properties to help. And intentionality. He didn't eat the plant, he used it for healing. In a 2024 paper published in Scientific Reports by Dr. Isabel Laumer and her team, the researchers emphasized how rare and valuable this observation was. They noted that while chimpanzees and bonobos have been observed eating bitter plants when sick or rubbing themselves with crushed leaves, no wild great ape has ever been seen using a plant in this way for wound care. And this raises a larger question. Where does medicine begin? If an orangutan can treat a wound with an herbal poultice, doesn't that suggest that the roots of medical knowledge go deeper than human civilization? That maybe the desire and the ability to heal isn't unique to us? Let's rewind the clock. Let's do it, say, 60,000 years. In Shanidar Cave in Iraq, archaeologists found the remains of a Neanderthal man who lived with multiple injuries, including a crushed leg and a blind eye. He had survived for years, and around his body, they found traces of medicinal plants, wildflowers, yarrow, and others used traditionally to reduce pain or fight infection. And that find suggests that prehistoric hominins, or our ancient cousins, were also practicing a form of medicine. And if Neanderthals could do it, and orangutans can do it, it means that the roots of healing might stretch far deeper into our evolutionary history than we ever imagined. That doesn't mean orangutans are building hospitals, but it means they understand cause and effect, pain and relief, injury and response. It means there might be cultural knowledge passed along by observation and how to stay healthy in the forest. And here's a thought. Rakus was an older male. His wound was on his face. He couldn't even see it directly. That means he had to feel it, assess it, and then decide to treat it. And that opens up a new line of inquiry. If Rakus knew how to do this, are there others? Could this be a common behavior that just hasn't been observed before? Orangutans live in a dense jungle, and they're incredibly hard to track. Scientists only observe a fraction of their total behavior in the wild, so it's entirely possible that orangutans and maybe even other species have been practicing natural wound care for years, and we just haven't seen it. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time. In the 1960s, Jane Goodall's first observations of chimpanzee tool use were considered shocking. And before that, the scientific consensus was that humans were the only species to make tools, but chimps broke that assumption wide open. And once we started looking, we found tool use in dolphins, crows, even octopuses, octopi, octopodes. So what if Rakus is just the tip of the iceberg? What if we're about to uncover an entire world of animal medicine that we've overlooked? And beyond that, what can we learn from them? Many of the medicines we use today, like aspirin, quinine, morphine, come from plants that were used for centuries in traditional medicine. And many of those traditions were learned by watching animals. The people of Borneo learned about certain anti-malarial plants by observing sick monkeys. Indigenous tribes in the Amazon follow the feeding habits of parrots and sloths to find medicinal herbs. Modern pharmacology owes a debt to the knowledge of animals, both human and non-human. So when Rakus reached for that yellow vine in the forest, he wasn't just healing himself, he was reminding us that the line between human and animal is thinner than we think. And maybe, just maybe, that healing instinct is something we all share. The internet says it's true. All right, confession time. This week got away from me. If you are a regular listener to the show, you know that this is the part where I bring on a guest. Well, I did have a guest scheduled, and man, I just got way too busy here in Chicago doing these shows, and I figured instead of the quiz this week, I'll just tell you a little bit about what I did, and hopefully, I don't know, you'll forgive me for not having a guest this week. I know a lot of listeners like this part of the show, the Yap Yap session, and I was going to have Jay Black, as I told you early in the episode, and man, Jay was ready for me, and I just screwed up and got way too busy. So, let me tell you about this. The Chicago Magic Lounge is where I've been performing this weekend, and this is my 4th summer in a row performing at the Chicago Magic Lounge. I did 7 shows, all sold out, and it's just simply the best place to see magic. You know, the Magic Castle in Hollywood is, of course, another amazing place to see magic, but in Chicago, they have built this theater. If you haven't been, not only is it a great place to go, it's a great place to bring friends. So you walk in and it's like a laundromat, like a speakeasy, and then you open one of the washer and dryers and it opens up into a beautiful magic bar, which opens up, the library door slides open and it opens up into a cabaret with a mezzanine, and you see all these magicians, close-up magicians, stage magicians, and if you buy the VIP ticket, you get also another show in another room called the 654 Club, and it's an incredible thing. The shows there are always awesome. It's in Andersonville, which is just north of Chicago. The people that come in there are amazing. They're great audience members, and I do a 30-minute headline set there, and I just always try to find, what's the most impactful 30 minutes that I can put together. And I ended up spending a lot of time when I wasn't performing talking about you all, talking about the podcast and the listeners that I have, and how loyal you all have been, and how amazing it is that people continue to listen to this show. So what I'm going to ask of you is please, let's keep this going. It's an amazing feeling. I'm lucky that I have a career that allows me to have the leeway to do a podcast like this, but also the fact that this podcast has nothing to do with this entertainment career that I've built. And people are still listening. You're tuning in, you're telling people about it, and just wanted to simply say thank you. I did, like I said, a 30-minute set. If you're familiar with my act, I do basically half of my normal hour show in this thing, but 30 minutes is a different beast than half an hour. I have 30 minutes to, fit a bunch of stuff in there. And oh my God, out of 7 shows, I think I had 3 or 4 standing ovations. Not bragging, just saying like, this is the stuff that really makes me feel good. It feeds my ego and it makes me not feel tired after I've been doing all these shows. I also did a show on Saturday that wasn't related to that. My friend Joe Janes, who was a regular guest of this show, was my sketch writing teacher at the Second City here in Chicago, and we've stayed in touch. And as I said, he's a regular guest of the show. He put together with some other folks a festival called FAFO Fest, which was sort of originally created as a counter-programming event to Donald Trump's birthday. Kind of like, let's resist through joy and laughter. And so we did that, and it happened to be on this Saturday that turned into, nationwide protests, Trump military parade. There was so much going on Saturday, not to mention probably 5 or 6 large festivals in the city of Chicago. And man, they were full. Between 100 and probably 150 people came out to the FAFO festival. Someone from the ACLU came and spoke. There were spoken word artists, comedians, musicians, sketches, a clown. It was just an incredible event. And I do have some of that on video. I'm not sure if I'll probably put some of that on Patreon for the folks that are listening there. But the moral of the story is I wanted to let you guys in a little bit on my life and what I've been doing. So this week was a little tough to get a guest scheduled to record from my hotel room, and we'll get back at it next week with a guest, hopefully. But that's the show. I have told several people about Rakus the orangutan this week, and you're about to hear the actual voice of Rakus the orangutan. Listen to this.
Thank you for listening to The Internet Says It's True. To listen to episodes ad-free and a week early, support us on Patreon. You can do that at patreon.com/Michael Kent. If you learned something just now that you didn't already know, go to the Apple Podcast app and leave us a review with 5 stars and a few words. That helps us a ton, because that's how the algorithm works. I don't know what an algorithm is, but just do it! See you next week for a brand new episode of The Internet Says It's True!
The Internet Says It's True would like to thank the Patreon subscribers whose monthly contributions help to make this show possible. Sean Brown, Joshua Endress, Dallas Ray, Bryce Swanson, Eugene Anderson, Jim and Joanne Martin, Mitch and Andrew Joseph Kemplin, and the show's official Emperor, Kick Track. The show is written and produced by me, Michael Kent. The theme song is by Finite Music Forge, and all audio clips in this episode are used for education and commentary and used under Fair Use Title 17 U.S.C. Section 107. You can listen to past episodes by searching for The Internet Says It's True wherever you get your podcasts, and you can see bonus content at patreon.com/.